Hello there. Welcome to Speaking of Business. I'm your host, Nancy Boyle. Today we're going to be talking about social media marketing. You know, what is it and is it going to work for your business? Joining me are Brian Barkia and Jessica Thomas with Advantage Business Magazine and Steve Kaufman with Stephen J. Kaufman Public Relations. So, welcome, fellas and girl.
Thank you.
Jessica.
Thank you.
So, Brian, I want to start with you. So why don't you tell us a little bit about what it is that you do in Advantage Magazine, et cetera?
Sure. Well, I'm the publisher, and what we are is we're a lead generation firm. We do that through magazines and e-newsletters and managing different social media campaigns for clients. Clients hire us to generate good qualified leads for us.
Okay, Jess?
Really, the best way to put it is that we are an education system for local small business owners through those means that Brian was discussing.
Okay, Steve?
I own an 18-year-old marketing communications company. We improve our clients' 3 R's of PR, as I like to put it, reputation, relationships, and referrals, by producing all forms of marketing communications.
Okay, so now everybody knows what everybody does. So let's talk about this whole social media marketing because, you know, it's the latest buzzword. Everyone wants to know about it. And it sort of reminds me back when websites first started. You know, that was the latest thing, and everybody kind of wanted to know about it and didn't know what to do with it. And, you know, why do I need a website? Now, if you don't have a website, you know, forget it. So I'm going to throw this one at you, Brian, and let's talk a little bit about what exactly is social media marketing.
Well, social media is a community of people that share different ideas and different content with one another. That's in its core what it's about. I mean, Facebook has now over 550 million users. And the first lesson of marketing is to be where your customers are. When they've reached that type of critical mass, you have no choice but to take it seriously.
Okay.
So it helps with search engine optimization and just a way for small businesses to get on the map. It's no longer cutting edge stuff. In our estimation, how we advise our clients, it's really a necessity at this point.
Okay, let's go into the search engine optimization because there may be some folks out in our audience that aren't real clear about what that is. So if you could explain that.
Sure. I guess the best way to explain search engine optimization is you have a small little piece of real estate on the internet, right? And you need to make sure that people know how to find you. You use different tools that can help increase the presence or the space that you occupy on the internet.
Okay.
Lots of things help with your search engine optimization. It's also a term coined to SEO, if maybe some of our viewers have heard that before. Everything you do online helps with your search engine optimization. Your profiles on Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, your own website, the different keywords you have behind your own website to stake your part of the internet. All of that and its conglomerate is SEO.
Okay.
And the linkages among all those
That's right.
help improve your SEO. So a big thing that we try to do, and I'm sure you advise your clients, is to link those different social media platforms, because that tells the search engine crawlers that there's relevance to those sites.
Okay. Now, here's something else, because Jessica is earlier in her career, so she's younger. She grew up with technology versus moi, who is not younger, who did not grow up with the technology. So if you look at if you're a small business owner and you're looking at your client base, you know, obviously these new wowie zowie technological things are really going to attract someone like Jessica as a customer. Mm-hmm. May or may not attract me. So how do you deal with that? And I'll throw that one at Steve.
Well, you need to know your target market, and that's if your target, you already know your target market is there, then you're going to spend more time and invest more capital into in making sure your social media works. But Brian hit a good point. It isn't wowie zowie anymore. It is a must. I just finished advising a client that is redoing his website, and he is not including a blog. And again, connecting the blog to your Facebook, to your Twitter, all helps grow your search engine optimization. And we almost got in a shouting match how he just didn't want to deal with it. And I said to him, why update the site if you're not going to include a key part of what's known as Web 2.0? So you need to look at your target market, But also you need to realize that this stuff is not, this is part of marketing now. It is a tool to be used now.
To kind of piggyback off of that, like you said about target market, there might be an entire target market out there that you're missing right now as well. So really it's good to go back and to reevaluate that target market, because we might both be in that. Target markets can be segmented. So you need to be where your customers are. And like Brian said earlier, it's here now. It needs to be.
Okay, well, let's talk about the various social media that are effective for business. You know, we've thrown out Twitter and Facebook and everything. So do you want to you sort of define, okay, which ones are out there that are to some degree effective for businesses? And the personal stuff we can just leave aside for another day.
Well, sure. I would answer it this way. Most of our clients that we advise are what's known as digital immigrants. They know what life is like without all of these tools. So in some cases, we're teaching this stuff to them for the very first time. We start with it relatively simple. For business service providers, we start with the big three, the Twitter, Facebook, and LinkedIn. Yes, there are others, a lot others, but these are the ones that have the majority of the market share and the majority of the users.
Okay.
We want to develop a community of followers of sorts that are interested in whatever the client's content is. We encourage them to not only hit these sources about buy my product, but more to interact with the audience and solicit feedback from them and be really a part of the community, not just be seen as somebody who's simply trying to sell something to somebody else.
Okay, so when you're working with your clients then, Jessica, what kind of an approach do you take with them? Is it different usages for different types of businesses, or?
Absolutely. First and foremost, I think in at least the big three that Brian mentioned, they should be in all three of them, no matter what their industry is. But really what it comes down to is to focus on their industry and what their target market is, and to take that and then focus the majority of their efforts on the one that makes the most sense for them. For example, with restaurants, Twitter's a really good one because they can put daily specials up and other ways to communicate and converse with their audience and their users.
Well, and I think that's the hesitation, at least from my perspective, is, okay, if I'm going to be out there, I want to be out there in a positive light. I don't want to be out there saying something stupid, And I think people who, seriously, we laugh about it, but I think there's a lot of business owners, or maybe there's people within their businesses that are have that hesitancy. It's, all right, you're a restaurant, we can put out our daily specials. But what you see in the media of how people use Twitter is, I just had a chocolate milkshake and now I'm going to go buy a cookie. Well, my customers, I'm sure, are not going to care about that. You see what I mean?
Right.
So
it's got to be conversational, and you've got to be strategic in your status updates. Ryan and I always say we mix our personal and our business, especially with our Facebook, because I have clients on there, but I also have my family, my friends from college that I don't get to see often. So I mix it up. I put, hey, just got a new puppy, pictures of the puppy, but also, hey.
Congratulations.
Thank you. New mom. But also, hey, we've got a great workshop coming up on Thursday of this, and then posting during the event as well. Hey, you're missing out right now. We've got 70 plus business owners in a room. Wish you were here kind of idea.
Which you're doing on Twitter. Is that right?
That's it's going to our Twitter as well. It feeds to that as well. We mainly focus for our business on the LinkedIn and the Facebook.
Okay.
Well, there's no cookie cutter program for all this stuff. It is all very much custom done.
Okay.
There's a local business out there in Town Center called Kilwins. They're very aggressive within Twitter, for example, and they're posting a special on chocolate covered Oreos today from 9 to 12. That's how they're using it.
Good to know.
Good to know. Yeah, we need to get on their Twitter account.
I just made that up. But they do some of that stuff. But that wouldn't work for a CPA firm, right?
Right.
So
exactly.
the strategy has to be very much different. Larger companies have figured this out long ago. It would make sense to kind of study some of their strategies and to follow something similar.
But Nancy, you raise a good point about not wanting to look stupid. We were talking about before we went on air a study that I read about in March that the Wall Street Journal published, where they interviewed 2,000 small business people that were using social media. 19% of them lost business because of their social media, and it was specifically because they combined their personal and business too much, and they tweeted or they sent out something that was offensive. And so, Jessica, what you said, you have to be strategic. It's got to be, you've got to think about what you're posting before you post it, because people have been burned, and that's where the bigger companies have full staffs that can manage that. The small business person a lot of times is doing it all themselves, and they don't think through some of the ramifications. That's the challenge.
Well, and then what's the time issue? I mean, how much time do you spend on it?
It's a huge, to do it right, and this Wall Street Journal article also mentioned that, and we found that with our clients, is that it is a huge time investment. The small business people they interviewed, they were doing a little bit over an hour a day managing their social media work, which is why companies are now develop that their sole purpose in life is to manage your social media presence. We do that a little bit for some of our clients, but now there are whole businesses that do just that one piece of the marketing communications puzzle, because it can be it can drive business, but it could also hurt you if you don't do it right.
And you're doing some of that too, aren't you?
Certainly we do it. We do it for those professional service firms too. But I would say that it can be a huge time commitment. And it probably is in the beginning when you're setting up all of your profiles. But once you have a clear written strategy in mind, it doesn't take much to keep up with the implementation on it. I know for our own purposes within our own firm, we spend anywhere, and sometimes we're doing more than most because of what we do for business, but we're spending anywhere from 30 minutes to an hour doing it. And frankly, the duties are split up within our organization. We don't have everybody doing any one profile. I mean, we have it split up around our group, and the culmination of efforts is what drives us leads and puts our place on the internet.
Now, you mentioned something here about a written strategy. So let's talk about that. I'll throw this over to Steve. What do you put in that?
Well, everything's going to work better if you have a plan.
Magic plan.
And the plan's got to touch basics of going back, target market. What's your message? One of the first things we do, even before we talk the social media conversation with our clients, is what is it you do better than basic marketing 101, your compelling competitive advantage. And so many times, especially the small business person, they got into it because they had one particular skill, never really honed how they were going to describe that skill. And until they do that and get it into the plan and their social media plan, any of their efforts are going to be challenged.
So I guess that begs the question is, where does this fit into the grand scheme of things? Are we eliminating the traditional ways of marketing, advertising and public relations, which is what you do, and now moving into this venue? Or, what's happening?
I hope we're not eliminating it, because 18 years has been good. I'd like a few more.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Jeff.
It's a tool, like Steve said earlier. It's a component of it. You can't, in any marketing, and if you look over the past 50 years of marketing and the way, there's always going to be things that come up and get really aggressive and really exciting and the customers jump on. But you need to remember that the traditional tools are still there for a reason. We still have television, we still have radio, we still are using the internet for a reason. So it needs to be a culmination, and that's what we tell our clients every day, is that you need to have all of your communication tools communicating with each other and saying a consistent message.
And even good old-fashioned direct mail, because the website and most of the social media, they're not all of it. It's now coming to us, but so much of it is still passive. You've got to get people there. Once they're there, you can do a lot with them. But there was another article in the Wall Street Journal about a month after that social media article that talked to small business people who had invested a lot in their website and had dropped their direct mail. And what they found was those small business people that did both had much better results. And those that had dropped their direct mail but then started it up again, so instead of a big trifold brochure or something in an envelope, what they were doing was a postcard directing people to their website. But that was the key. You had to get people there. So even the traditional direct mail, and because there's so fewer pieces of the mail now, that when you have a nicely designed direct mail piece, it grabs people's attention and they will act on it. So the social media is just one more arrow in the quiver. It doesn't mean you throw all the other arrows away.
Yeah, I mean, if I could add, I mean, there is no magic bullet when it comes to marketing. I mean, two things to keep in mind are variety and consistency. In some ways, with our new digital age, marketing has gotten a lot easier. Some of these tools that we talked about today are free. How much better can it get than that, right?
Right.
But all of those traditional means that we've talked about before, too, even the daily newspapers and television and direct mail, all of them exist for a reason. We tell our clients, if you can't exactly put your finger on how this lead came to you, or you ask somebody, how did you hear about us, and they can't give you a straight answer, that's a good thing. That makes you that way you know that your marketing is actually working for you. They'll say, well, I may have seen it on a billboard. I certainly am friends with you on Facebook, and maybe I saw you on television. Anyway, the important part is that I'm here in front of you, right? So I mean, that's what we want to get to.
Okay. Well, what are some of the pitfalls that somebody kind of getting into this now might fall into, and what would you do to kind of prevent that? You know, we talked about the looking stupid, and we talked about being careful about what you put up there. It's sort of like the email where, you're angry with somebody and you send out this blast email, and the next thing you know, it's all over the internet. It's on the front page of the newspaper. I mean, it goes viral, and it's not the message you want. As we all know, when something negative happens, somebody has a bad experience, they tell a bunch of people. And when it's positive, maybe one or two. So how do you kind of prevent?
Well,
that may be a loaded question.
I'll take a stab at it. I mean, the first thing to do is take a deep breath before you hit that enter button. Because once it goes online, it takes on a life of its own, and you cannot get it back. And there's lots of horror stories on how that has gone horribly wrong for different businesses. Be careful what your profile looks like. I mean, is this how you want to represent both yourself and your business? Is that are those pictures from your college fraternity days really appropriate at this point in your life? Maybe not. But just be conscious of that, because when it's on the internet, it's out there for the world to see.
Yes, it is.
And forever.
And forever. That's true.
Right.
And it's getting back to the basics. You got to have a plan. You got to know who your target market is, and like you're talking about, Brian, you've got to know your image. Is the image you're projecting going to appeal to your target market? And if it isn't, then you've got to pull that back. And the only way you think through that all through is with a plan where you look at what's out there, you look at what your options are, and you make some decisions. The good thing about that is when you find out about another alternative, another way to communicate, another medium, you can decide, you've already got your plan, so you can decide if, this is something I hadn't considered. Let's try this. And if you've been good about asking your customers, where did you find us? And then you get a new customer and you're doing something new, even if they aren't sure how they found out about you, you've now got data that says, well, I'm doing something new. But it's all getting back to the basics. It's target market image and compelling competitive advantage, and then using these new techniques and tools to tell that story.
Now, how do you kind of, I don't know what the right word is here, it just seems like everybody's getting such a ton of emails. And I know with the LinkedIn, you can send out a blast, and I'm not sure how the Facebook blast thing works, but Twitter's certainly a blasted kind of thing. So how do you get or not get to the point where you're being almost abusive to your customers. Do you know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
Where it's overload. It's like, no, don't send me another email.
Well, that's a really important part of the plan that we were talking about, is that you don't want to abuse them, because like he said, there are small businesses that lost customers because of this. You want to make sure that when you're communicating with them, there's strategy behind it, that there's a reason that you're talking to them, that you're not just sending them stuff. You want to think of it the same way you think of emailing within a business. You don't want to be forwarding on bad jokes or inappropriate things. Again, there's a strategy behind it, and you don't want to abuse it. You don't want to abuse your customers.
If we're just looking at the big three, as you called it, Brian, Twitter, Facebook, and LinkedIn, can you maybe suggest the types of businesses where LinkedIn is really a good resource, but maybe Facebook and Twitter aren't, or Facebook's the right thing? You had mentioned, I think, Jessica, that or maybe it was Steve, restaurants, you can Twitter your daily specials. And there was a great story about a mobile food business in California that, they're Twittering all over the place, and it's like the Korean burrito van is coming down Main Street, and people were lining up to get, so it obviously can be very effective, but it's not right for everybody.
Well, I think it all depends on what type of business that you're in, and what your strategy might be. For most of the folks we interact with, we're using Twitter as more of a back end, more of kind of positioning that to help your search engine optimization, not as the primary communication tool.
Okay.
For most professional service firms, LinkedIn is more important than anything. That's what gets your mini CV, so to speak, online, and lets people take you seriously and see who you're connected with. So that's a definite. But that's not to say that you shouldn't be on Facebook as well, because again, Facebook has millions of users. Your clients are on Facebook, and maybe it's just their personal profile, but it doesn't matter. In some ways, that's the preferred method to target them, because they don't have their business guard up, and they're maybe more receptive to ideas and new offerings and that sort of thing. So it's a combination of either. It's just a matter of how you implement the strategy.
Okay. Again, for our audience, Jessica, why don't you tell us about LinkedIn and how a business could use that?
Okay. Well, I'm a firm believer in LinkedIn, and I think that any business owner, any professional, no matter what your industry is, you should be on it, because it's an online resume, is essentially what it comes down to. You can kind of toot your own horn and say, this is the experience I had by using a third party, to where you're not just sitting there saying, hey, this is why I'm great, but giving the 30 years of experience as an attorney that you've had, and it's another platform where you can go on there and put just helpful advice, helpful information, or hey, I found this in one of my trade publications or one of my trade things that your clients aren't necessarily reading, and push it out there and get them thinking, kind of using this thought leader strategy. It's a way for people to find jobs now. It's a way for people to find employees. It's a way for you to find clients. I've stumbled across clients. It's another way to connect, which is really important when you're,
Okay.
I would say that we hired Jessica off LinkedIn.
That's true. I wasn't sure if I should say that, but we actually, that's how we connected.
Well, that's a great success
There
story.
you go.
And it really, I was, having a small business marketing consulting firm, and we connected and we talked and.
Sure.
And remember, the linkages between LinkedIn, Facebook, your blog, all build up that SEO,
Right.
where when somebody's looking for your particular service and they do a search on Google or Yahoo or whatever, your goal is to be as close to the top of that list as you can be. And for our clients, what we're seeing is do everything you can to raise that SEO. So what we found to be very effective is post something on your blog, then post a link of it on Facebook, so that people see you on Facebook, click on the link on Facebook, takes them to your blog. The search engines see that, that raises your relevance. We did that personally with my company, and I was at the top of the PR list for most of July and August, because I sent out 4th of July cards, and we posted a PDF of it on our Facebook page, linked it to our blog. It works. if it's used correctly.
Okay. Now, what about privacy security issues? How do you handle that kind of stuff, or is there no problem with it? Anybody answer?
Well, I'll take this one. I actually had an issue at the beginning of the year with getting a virus through my Twitter account, and it sent out a rather inappropriate message to all of my followers without me knowing, including my clients, my prospects, people I had just met in business. So privacy and a strategic plan in place for contingency if something like that happens is so important. I mean, immediately I had people calling me, texting me, IMing me saying, "Hey, I think you just got hacked," which is great
Well,
because
at least they knew you got hacked.
Right,
and that it
right.
wasn't
There's
you
something to
saying
say about my reputation in that sense. But in the same case, you need to have that. We were talking about this plan. You need to have a plan like that in place if that does happen, because, like he said, it's a wildfire. It's going to start and it won't stop. And but for privacy, absolutely, you should have it in place, especially with Facebook. You don't want your birth year on there. You know, mother, maiden name are now on. I mean, it's
you don't want to say, well, we're leaving for the weekend, and your address is.
That's a good point.
It's happened.
Right.
It's happened.
Oh, absolutely.
What are some of the new? Technology is evolving exponentially. What are some of the new things that you're seeing to kind of add to this, or are you seeing anything new?
Well, I could tell you the trend that's been happening on the internet for quite some time is more and more video. Now that most have a high-speed connection, video is more friendly than it used to be. The formats are even better, too. YouTube is an important tool in the whole toolbox here to get on the map. We're working with a client now that is a professional speaker, and we handle some of their media. And when you have a text on a web page and on the Facebook and Twitter, that only gets you so far. Eventually people want to see in action. So there's lots of ways a professional service firm, and any firm for that matter, can promote what they do via video and use a video press kit or show the construction of a time-elapsed video of a swimming pool if you're a swimming pool contractor, whatever it might be. All of those things contribute to that search engine optimization, and Google keeps their algorithms quite secret, but it's clear that they recognize video and they weight it heavily. So regardless of what you're doing, there should be some video sprinkled in there somewhere.
Okay, everybody's in agreement with that?
Yes. Another new thing that I'm just learning about now, I don't know all the details yet, but is GeoWeb, where sites can target the site that you're looking at knows what part of town you're in or what part of the country you're in, and so it can target specific messages, ads, whatever, to you based on your geographic location. So it's becoming one of the benefits of the internet and of websites and this whole social media was big group, smaller, right to that one client, that one prospect, and it's becoming much easier to get to that one person. That's really another new innovation. I still don't know I'm still learning that.
So I think it's fair to say that technology is increasing and more to come later and all that stuff?
Absolutely. I mean, there's several that we haven't even mentioned today that, again, it depends on your business. We're just saying these three are most important for small business owners. But.
Okay.
Yeah, it's definitely a moving target. I mean, if I had one piece of advice, it's that be an early adopter. Understand you'll have some bumps and bruises along the way, but you can use it as a competitive advantage.
Okay, unfortunately we're out of time, so we'll have to do another show on the next wave. So thank you all for being here today. Thank you for joining us today. If you have any questions, you can contact us at the Small Business Development Center. It's www.sbdc.unf.edu. So thank you for joining us, and come back next time when we'll be speaking of business. Bye now.
For Comcast subscribers.
Your